sensitive to these sounds. Plant down and lotus in a tempted ground. Knowing if I fail to lift the veil, I'm hellbound. Journey through the fate of all the hate I found. Done laying out the laments for these lames, big clowns. We can still throw down pound for pound if you choose to drag my name through the mud with no bounds. Scars go deep, but the passion can shift. Trying to find a balance between anger and bliss. Searching for my purpose when success is a myth. I thought I knew the gist of the plot, but it came with a twist. Had it all mapped out, but none of the pieces fit. Abandonment issues got me doing the split. Realizing I didn't really need what I wish. Got sick of getting tricked into giving the devil a kiss. Welcome to the side of hell. They got me under a spell. Story to tell, as soon as I break out of this shell. Welcome to the side of hell. They got me.
Good evening, everyone, or afternoon, everyone, wherever you're watching, and welcome to another episode of Portal to the Paranormal Vodcast. I hope everyone is doing well. I'm your host, Nando, and next to me, we have the beautiful Nikki joining us tonight. How are you doing, Nikki?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, you've been excited for this one, haven't you?
I really have, yeah.
Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah, it's going to be a great... We were just having a chat with our guest just now, and already it's been a great conversation. But just want to... There's quite a few people in the room, so if I don't get round to everyone, I apologise, but just quick shout-outs to Elizabeth, hey, Abby, Janet, Michelle, Nick, Andrea, Pam, Nick again. Well, Nick saying hello. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Hey, Tracy. Again, we apologise if we don't get round to everyone's name, but thank you for joining us. If you do have any questions for Chris, please put them in the comments and we will try and get through. But just a real quick introduction, not like we really need to do an introduction for Chris, but Chris Fleming, paranormal researcher, investigator, medium, been in the paranormal field for 50 plus years, experienced supernatural phenomena. He's been on TV shows, Dead Famous, Psychic Kids, Help My House Is Haunted, Spooked Scotland and Spooked Ireland, which is currently being shown on Discovery Plus. He's been around loads of places across the United States, the UK, Mexico, Jamaica as well, so let's just say he has done quite a bit, and we're really excited and really pleased that we've managed to get Chris to come on and have a chat. So shall we bring him on? Let's do it. Good afternoon, good evening. How you doing, Chris?
Good, Nando, Nikki, how are you guys?
Really well. Really excited to have you on again. Thank you so much for taking the time out to have a chat with us, and just pointing out just a few of the things that you've done within the paranormal field. It's been absolutely amazing. I think everyone in the audience will agree, we've all seen the work that you do, and we're really excited to find out a bit more about Chris behind the camera, away from the TV. But I'm going to let Nikki kick off the questions. So Nikki, over to you.
Hit me with it.
First, most important question.
Yeah.
How's Noir doing?
Noir's doing great. And thank you for asking. Obviously that was a challenge this year. For those that don't know, my cat Noir has been my buddy, always by my side ever since I rescued him in Las Vegas. Off the streets. He was on the streets with two other cats, and I brought him home with me. He is a black Maine Coon. He started having, his heart would pause anywhere from 8 to 14 seconds, causing him to collapse. A certain heart arrhythmia issue. And because, it was heartbreaking. He was on medication for over 6 months that was helping it and correcting it, making the collapses very less frequent. Then it stopped working. And the only option was to put him down or get a pacemaker. But I did not have the money for a pacemaker. I mean, you're looking at $9 grand. It's like, wow. So what happened is, I had to make a decision, and it was tough. I mean, I was devastated, and I had all these events going on every weekend, and I was going to Indiana. And even though he was collapsing, I put him in my room and everything. And I said, you know what, I was on the way to go put him down after getting a second opinion with a cardiologist. And I'm like, I can't, something's telling me not to. So I went and did ghost hunts with like 100 people at Indiana Sanatorium. And on the way home, I said to the universe, I said, all right, I got to make this decision by tomorrow, Monday, right? So I said to the universe, I said, listen, I know how this works. When we surrender and we seek, we find. So I'm saying to you, I said, if I need to put him down, then let me see a license plate or a sign that says Noir. Okay. Well, I never saw a license plate that said Noir. What ended up happening was, at first I see this billboard of a hospital and says, "We fight to keep your loved ones alive." And I'm like, oh, I wish I could fight for Noir, but there's nothing I can really do. Then we stopped at this stop place because my buddy Alex had to use the bathroom, and I went to the vending machine, got some gummy bears, and I get change. Just one quarter comes out, and I look at the quarter because earlier that day we had something paranormal that happened with the quarter that just appeared out of nowhere in front of Alex, and it had his birth date on it. And it was just extraordinary, right? So I decided to look at it, and I see a drummer on there, military drummer. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I've heard drummers when we were in Ireland and other stuff we've heard direct voice phenomenon caught on recording. So it's kind of interesting. Well, I get home, Noir's there, he's still collapsing everything, but I'm hugging him, I'm unpacking. And all of a sudden I see this quarter in the middle of the floor. I'm like, wait a minute. And I pick it up, and it's another quarter with the drummer. And I go, wait a minute. I know I put the quarter in the change holder in my car, and it was still there, but another one just appeared with the drummer. I'm like, all right, that's 3 different signs possibly. So I look it up. Drummers would drum during battles and wars to inspire their soldiers to keep fighting.
Yeah.
And right then I'm like, I have to fight for Noir. I have to do this, So I remember calling my mom. I said, Mom, I'm going to get the pacemaker. She goes, but you don't have the money. I said, I don't know. I know I don't. The universe is going to take care of this somehow. I got to do this. I don't care what it is. And so some friend says, why don't you do it? I hate to do that, but I did. And in 24 hours, raised the money.
Wow.
Well, I owe it to everybody that did this because he's alive today because of that. He's had no collapses since. The pacemaker's keeping him functioning. Now he continues to lose weight, which is an issue. He's down to like 9.8 pounds. He used to be 23, just so you know. In 2021, he was 23, and he went down to 18. Before surgery, he's 11.2, and after surgery, 10.7. Now he's down to 9.9. But, he's still with us, and he still plays. He still eats. He sat on the table with me all night last night, wanting attention like he always has when we work. He's the regular Noir. So I owe it to everybody that helped out to save him. So
that's amazing. They do become like a family member, don't they? Your pets, so
I've had cats. I've had cats my whole life. I have 4 of them, and they are like my children. They're my friends, and everybody, all my friends that some that never liked cats says, dude, your cats are amazing. I said, I know, because when you give them attention, you treat them a certain way, any type of pet will become that addition to the family. It's just the way you treat them. So thank you.
Amazing. Wow. Well, bless him. At least he's doing well. That's absolutely great news. And Elizabeth as well. She's just said that's great news as well. So,
well, here's the thing to tell people too, is that other cats I've had to put to sleep, I've had paranormal experiences with them after they died. And not only that, I felt like Tigger. I put him to sleep. I felt his soul go out of it. And all of a sudden this man appears in the room and takes my cat. I go, what are you doing? He was shocked I could see him. He says, well, I take care of all the animals here at the vet when they go. So they're not alone until they come for them. I'm like, well, you better not hurt my cat or anything. My mom's like, who are you talking to? I said, there's this man standing right here in front of him holding my cat. And then when we put my mom's cat to sleep, Hobo, I did a prayer and I went with my stepdad. And I'm saying, God, will you please send an angel, not this guy that just shows up out of the vet, right? Please send an angel to take Hobo directly to heaven. And as I'm sitting there and the doctor comes in about to inject him, all right, I'm looking over to the left and I see this angel appear. Eyes were pure white energy, blonde, golden face and hair, and in a pearlescent white robe, and probably would have been maybe about 6-7 feet tall. And I'm looking at him and I'm looking down and I'm looking, nobody else sees him. And I'm like, oh my God. And I say, because I know everything's telepathic, I said, are you here because of Hobo? Nods his head, doesn't say anything, just nods his head. So all of a sudden when the doctor injects him, Hobo disappears. I shouldn't say disappear. Hobo's dead, you could tell, right? The doctor's like, all of a sudden I see this gray appear. I look up and I see Hobo, cradled in the angel's arms looking up. And I'm like, holy cow. So, and the doctor's like, I said, doctor, he's gone. He says, yeah, but let me check. He's got the stethoscope. I said, no, doc, he's gone. I'm looking at the angel. And I said, thank you. The angel does this, looks up, goes in a beam of light and completely gone. When we got home, I said, Mom, you're not going to believe what I just saw. You need to hear this. This is incredible. And I told her, and she's like, well, I hope so. I go, hope so, Mom. I'm telling you, this is what I saw. If it didn't happen, I wouldn't be talking about this. I'm telling you, this is what happened. And so to have these slight encounters dealing with this, and then another cat felt his consciousness, says, thank you, Chris. I go now. is, I'm going to say this to everybody. Every pet, every animal, and every organism is a fraction from the creator, from same thing as us, from consciousness. So every single organism, every animal has the same exact consciousness we do. And I know it might be hard for people to believe, but we all come from the source. We come from infinite intelligence. So infinite intelligence has spread it out across the cosmos to have all these other experiences through many different types of living entities, such as us. So your dogs, your cats are just as intelligent, have the same soul and consciousness as you do, but they are a variation created by the creator. So when you are hugging your dog, cat, or any pet, you can say, I love you to the creator, because the creator's in that, and it's got its own individual personality of free will. So that's what I've learned, like, holy cow, all animals and species are just as significant as us because they have the same exact intelligence and free will that we were given. They're just in a different vessel. So for me, it's like, the most important thing is trying to help and save animals, because people don't understand that part.
That's amazing. Absolutely. And with regards to, going into, what you're saying about the spiritual side of things and the paranormal, how did that all begin for you? Like, where was the starting point? Was it at a young age or later?
Yeah, it was various things that occurred, that some stuff I just felt was normal, didn't really realize it was bizarre, out of the ordinary. My mom had a sixth sense in ESP. Okay, so she could have dreams or premonitions that would come true. My great grandma, which I found out later when I was about 8, 9 years old, she saw ghosts when she, my grandma did not like to talk about it. But then as I got older, and especially 5 years before my dad died, he saw them too. He saw ghosts, but he chose to ignore them because to him, it was like, they're just people and I just don't have time for that. You're the one that, he always said, you're the one that had the problem with them. I go, I had a problem with them. He goes, yeah, because you were always interacting with them. Me, I just ignored them. I said, oh my God, Dad. So the fact is that going back to my childhood, I have my earliest memories. Like people are always asking me, what's your earliest experience? I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's like, holy cow. So I did a podcast because I do Spirit Talk. In January 2019, I talk about my 3 earliest encounters. One is I was only 1.5 years old. Okay, I remember I was in a crib, and I remember I was outside a crib and I'm following this light. I remember bits and pieces of it. My mom was shocked that I remember this, because she does remember when she had this terrible feeling, kept calling the babysitter that something was wrong. And then the babysitter said, yeah, Chris is gone, disappeared. So as a 1.5 when we lived in Long Island, only 2 blocks away, 2-3 blocks away was the ocean, the lake or whatever it was in Long Island. And I was sitting on the beach in my diapers. And the question is, how did I get there? Right. And a neighbor walking his dog saw me sitting there. And I remember looking up, the dog coming, and I don't remember too much except being right by the stairs. My parents come back home and he delivers them to me and I go back upstairs. But I do remember the white light, following the white light and all these voices. And then I remember going towards the door, and then they disappeared. And then I remember sitting there and watching them take off by this big star. It was like a star, and it was very vertical, like a slit. And I remember there's people inside it. And I just remember it taking off right by the water and watching it glisten across the water as it just vanished. And I was like, don't go, because I just thought it was so cool. So that was my earliest experience, and then the other one was when I was 3 years old, 3, 4. And I had a friend named Chip. My mom says an imaginary friend, but he wasn't imaginary. I remember him. I remember playing, and I remember him telling me really weird things. And I remember him introducing me to these other kids. There's probably about 10 or 12 other kids that were various ages, anywhere between 5 to maybe 10, 11 years old. And he says, I want you to meet these kids. I said, well, I can't go across the parking lot. My mom's telling me I can't. This is when we lived in Salt Lake City. My dad played professional hockey, so we lived in various cities during the hockey season, and we always came back to Chicago. But so I followed him and said, my mom's going to get mad. She's like, don't worry, you're with me. Everything's going to be fine. So we go underneath these underground tunnels because they're going to be building another complex there. So they already started building the basement tunnel areas. So we're crawling around there, and all of a sudden all these kids appear. They're like, oh my God, you can see us. Like, of course I can see you, right? So, hey, let's play a game of hide and seek. So we play hide and seek, and they're quickly disappearing. Like, you go to a dead end and they're gone. Like, how'd they do that? I didn't even know, right? Well, I realized obviously years later that these were all ghosts of kids that had died, and he wanted me to meet them because there was a really bad man that lived in the complex that had something to do with this. And he was trying to warn me because this bad man started babysitting me, and they were afraid something like was going to happen to me. And so that was like one of those things where something's trying to warn you, trying to save you. And I remember once this guy took me to a movie and stuff like that. But I remember one time my parents arguing because they both had to work, and I'm watching The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms on the TV. I remember this. We're in the kitchen. I'm watching this, and they're arguing like, "Who's going to watch? Because I can't watch. You can't watch. Well, I got to work. We can't find a bit." I said, "Well, just get what's his name, the old man who goes, oh no, no." My dad says he's gone. He's gone away. Like, what do you mean he's gone away? He's gone away for a long time. What does that mean? I never got to ask my dad about that because he passed away in 2009. But when you say someone's gone away for a long time, that means they went to jail for something.
Yeah.
I was going to say, is that, when you're saying about a long time, it's usually
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And here's the cool thing is, as I got older, and of course, when we got into ITC, spirit boxes and other devices, I remember it was Eastern State Penitentiary. I said, "Are there any spirits that want to talk to us?" And all of a sudden, the spirit says, "Yes, Chris." I said, "Yeah, what? Who?" "Chip says hi."
Oh, wow.
Everybody's saying, "Oh, Chip Coffee." No, it's not Chip Coffee. This is the ghost that I had. His name was Chip when I was a little kid. I'm like, holy cow. So there are been a couple instances through ITC I've spoken to him. So, it's crazy. It's just wild stuff.
That's amazing. Chris, do you think that everyone is born with an ability, but for some they keep it, and for others they don't? It kind of drifts off.
Okay.
Do you believe that every child is born with an ability as such of being able to see?
Every species, every person on this planet comes from infinite intelligence and comes from the spirit realm. In the spirit realm, we don't speak. We all think and communicate through thought. So everything is open, all consciousness. So we would call that psychic abilities, like, how are you reading my mind? How did you know this? Well, it's just normal for us to communicate that way on the other side. Everybody does that, all spirits. Okay. And like when I tell people when you go, be careful what you're thinking, because they know what you're thinking. We have negative entities going, what is their fear? Because they're trying to figure out our fear, read our minds, right? And we know this in EVP and ITC. A lot of times we're formulating a question in our head before we ask it, and they answer it before we even ask it. Okay. That's because you've already projected the question to them through telepathy, thought transference, and they've heard it, read it, picked it up, and they're responding before you even ask it. So we know this. So everybody has this capability. Not everybody is aware of it. Not everybody's in tune with it. People can be born with that heightened sense. People can have a traumatic experience that activates it. People can learn to train parts of their brain to be more connective to this ether and this consciousness. So there's various ways. And sometimes people just all of a sudden, boom, it turns on, So yeah, everybody has it, but not everybody uses it or knows how to, or gets to that degree of acceleration of that consciousness within this life.
So I get what you're saying there. So why do you think people are so quick? Like, you're doing a genuine thing with the way you do it, and as you were saying in the background, you want to give back. That's your thought process. Why do you think people don't believe in it so much? Why do you think people are quite quick to, say fake, mediums are fake, this is fake? Why do you think that has that sort of perception?
Because they don't believe. And usually there's something behind that belief, something that's anger, something they went through as a child, whatever it is. I've always noticed when you tend to see out of the blue a comment, "Oh, you're fake." I said, okay, why am I fake? Because you are. Because I am. Okay, you don't know me. You don't know my background. Why am I fake? Because ghosts aren't real. Why are they not real? Okay, what do you think happens when you die? So then you start breaking it down. Really has nothing to do with me, but because of what I believe and what I do, I must be fake because they don't believe that. So now you get down to the root of the problem, is they don't believe that. So what you're saying is, well, how come I don't see ghosts? Well, go into the spectrum. You only see 10% of electromagnetic field, which is called the visual light spectrum. There's 90% you don't see. If you don't believe me, go look it up yourself. Talk to scientists and engineers about that. All right. Then get back to me. Now you're telling me they don't exist because you've never seen one, but you only see 10% of electromagnetic spectrum. 90% you don't see. So who's being illogical? Who's being ignorant? Okay. Now there's people all over the world and people going back thousands of years. Okay. Every culture, society has a ghost experience or something that's been passed down of them seeing it. Even very famous people, historical leaders have seen ghosts. All right. Even religious icons have talked about ghosts. But you and other people like you say they don't exist. Why? because you've never had an experience. That's it. Have you ever scored a touchdown, ran over 6 people? I have. Have you ever done this? No, you haven't. So does that mean it doesn't exist? I said, the fact of the matter is that it's really arrogant and ignorant to say, no, there's no such thing. It's fake. It's because when you get to the bottom of the root of it, with some of these individuals, is they've been really hurt or taken advantage of at some point in their life. So because they don't believe in something, they think other people are taking advantage of other people. So that affects them, their self-confidence, who they are, their identity, because they were never able to stand up to it when they were younger. And in some of these cases, that's why they're lashing out, because they're hurting inside. I've spoken to some of these people and they've revealed that. And plus, I've been a spiritual counselor for over 17 years. I have my own private practice. So, I went to school, I studied art because I'm an artist, and also psychology. So when I got out of school, I'm like, I don't know if I want to be a psychologist, because it's like, I'm going to absorb and hang on to all these emotions, because I was immature at that point in my life. I didn't realize that it doesn't represent you. You don't have to hold on to that. Dead Famous really taught me how to, some of these traumatic deaths and everything they went through, to release it and not let it be a part of me. And then when people start coming to you, I set up my own practice back in 2006. So the thing is that you learn how it's all part of the human process, no matter what the emotions are. It's all part of the collective consciousness of the creator to experience through us. So you don't take it personal. So, but here's the beautiful thing too, which I've learned over the last decade. It's okay if there are people like this that don't believe and that are skeptical, no matter how diehard they are. You want to know why? Because the creator is experiencing that through them. So the creator created all of us to have an experience, give us free will, to allow us to believe and do whatever we want, so that the creator can experience through us without manipulating where it takes you. So if you don't believe in the creator is getting to experience what it's like for not to be believed in. And when I learned all that, I was like, holy cow. So get mad at somebody because they're an atheist or this and that, and they don't believe. Love them because the creator through them has experienced the opposite. So what can I learn from this person? What can I bring out the best, or what can I contribute to them or give to them in their life that would expand their consciousness? So it works that way. But then, some people are assholes, and you're going to deal with that. All right. And I'm going to tell you, there are some people that are assholes. There are people that are assholes that don't believe, and there are people that are in the paranormal that are assholes too. It's going to be, it doesn't matter who, what genre. There's attorneys that are assholes, attorneys that aren't. There's, garbage men that are assholes. And so what I'm saying is that it's not just, people in this are like that. Because I know some skeptics, and they're incredible people. We've had amazing conversations, right? Regardless of this and that, I still don't believe. I said, hey, if you feel comfortable not believing, it's your prerogative, my prerogative, right? So, you realize that the creator's experiencing it through all of us. I used to take it personal, like when I was doing Dead Famous. They're like, what the hell are you talking about? Because this is what I went through as a kid, and I know that. And it's like, whoa, Chris, grow up. Wait a minute. Not everybody went through, not everybody understands what you went through. Not everybody's, just because you went through some hard times growing up because people didn't believe you doesn't mean you have to start fighting everybody again. So I realized, whoa, take yourself from their perspective. Why are they thinking that way? Get to learn about them, why they're thinking that way. And that's what I tell people to do, Like there was someone that posted, the thing is, like if we talk about Spooked Ireland, is I'm blown away. And I was telling Ryan, I said, you know what? There's hardly been any negative feedback on Spooked Ireland. Okay. I've seen nothing except maybe 3 or 4 negative responses the very first episode or second episode. And I recognize those names. They were saying the same things back in Help My House is Haunted and Dead Famous days. So I see there's always people are going to be that way. And this one person had said, and I just think it's hilarious. She posted, because I remember I got in it with her years ago, and Help My House is Haunted tried to understand her. I even allowed her to follow me, and I followed her. And then she's always negative about everything. She goes, oh my God, after 5 minutes of watching the first episode, I had to turn it off because I can't stand this guy. He's the biggest, fakest person in the whole world. And I'm like, wow, that's extreme. I said, so does this mean you're never going to take me out to dinner? And they just did a laugh thing after it. I'm like, you know what? There's going to be people that are going to be negative like that. There's nothing you could do. I said, should I get my mom talk to him? Do you want to talk to my mom, my friends or anything? They'll tell you growing up. I said, but what's the point? There's people that are just going to be that way no matter what. And reality is it really has nothing to do with who you are as a person. It has to do with just something you're doing affects them in a negative way that they're not able to communicate it. And it's just like, you know what? Just send them praise and love. And, even one person during Help My House, I said, oh, I love you anyway. I love you. Well, I hate you. I said, okay, but I love you because I'm sure that there's a reason why you hate. And if I knew what the hate was, we both could have a conversation about it and I could help you heal.
Wow.
So,
It's a good attitude to have, but it's got to be hard at the same time. It's got to like wear at you a little bit when you get those sort of negative remarks where you're just trying to be you and do what you want to do. It's still got to be hard at the same time, or have you completely become resilient from it all?
yeah, I know. Well, I see other people sometimes having a hard time with it too. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I will be defensive and stand up for something that I know is right because my dad raised me that if you're going to stand up to something or fight something over somebody, you better make sure you're 100% right. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I was raised. But in the most time I look at it, I go, I'll be like, why? I might, some people say, I don't respond like Barry guys. Like, I don't respond to any of those people. I said, why? Why not? They're actually watching the show. They're asking you a question. They may not believe whatever else. So sometimes I'll engage, and even the network tells us, do not engage with these people, but like I said, I'm shocked. There's hardly been any negativity regarding this season. I'm shocked. There was a first episode because I channeled. A few people said that. I said, did you even pay attention to before and after on the Ghost Tube, what it was saying? Because I have the entire clip. Okay. And it was saying that the spirits were saying he's a medium. I want to speak through him. Right. And then all of a sudden they start channeling through me. And even when it's channeling through me, if you listen to what's coming through the Ghost Tube, it's complimenting what's happening to me. And at the end, when I talked to this man and all these other spirits that wanted with the loved ones, I said, listen, we're going to do everything we can to help you and reunite you with them. You hear it say, we know. Okay. The title says, I know, but it says, we know. So they were just speaking through me. And I just said, I now understand you. I got the emotional of what you're looking for. We're going to try to help you. And it says, we know. There's confirmation. But people aren't paying attention to that confirmation because they don't believe. But like I say to people, do you believe you have a soul? And for those that say yes, do you believe your soul's occupying your body for this period of time while you're here? Yes. So then why don't you believe another soul can come in for a brief moment through possession, attachment, or through channeling for a brief moment? Because you're doing that right now. Okay. And I understand there's a lot of skepticism with that. I totally understand. Okay. I've seen some people and I just put my hands going, oh my God, oh my God. So for me, it's like, I want to have the devices. I want to have the technology there to validate. And plus, so that I know I'm not getting schizophrenic or getting crazy, right? Is that they're there, right? So, that was only negative, I think, that first episode. And like I had said to the other producers, I'm like, guys, why did you set this up to air this episode first? Should have been in the middle of the season or the end of the season, whatever, but it actually went over very well, and people didn't have that criticism. Like I said, there's only like 3 people. So I was shocked. I was really shocked. But the thing is that we don't investigate. We don't go on TV just to impress people. And I try to tell people that is like, you are here to do what you're good at, for them to document it and to find ways in the paranormal that you can contribute and show people and educate them what you're coming in contact with or what you're doing. Like you'll see this, and I'm so impressed with him, right? Is look at Ryan from season 1 to season 2.
Yeah.
Right. Season 1 was the first time he was on TV, right? He's working with me. And then Gail and I were the dominant personalities on the show because we've worked together before, right? In this season. But when I watched the first season, I said, God, there's not enough of Ryan and Evelyn and other people kind of contributing, because I watch every episode and I critique it and I write it down. And because I used to be a coach of sports, we used to watch game films, and I look at it the same mentality. I said, okay, what needed to be done better to explain this or to do that? Did the same thing during Dead Feathers to improve myself, but also to improve the program, to make sure that we are validating and we are explaining. Because sometimes you see some shows, they talk about this and you don't hear it again, right? It's like, well, what's the point? You build up to that and you never resolve it, never hear about it. There's got to be a connection to that or an understanding. So case in point is, watching the show first season, the second season, I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And I share it with the other producers is, Ryan, every time you get a piece of equipment, explain the equipment, say what it is, what it does, why you're using it, what you think about it. If you've ever had experiences before about it, and if something happens, how are you feeling? What do you think and everything? And you see him just take control this season, and it's phenomenal, and I even told him, I said, dude, I'm so proud of you. It's just, I watch because I got to see the rough cuts and everything. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know this went on. I didn't know he did this. I didn't know. I'm like, holy cow, He says, well, I feel a lot more comfortable now and everything. I said, totally understand. And he knows to just completely black out the cameras and just do what you do. Right. And he's great. He's great in this season. And that's the thing is, like I told him, contribute. You can contribute because you know this equipment, because you use it all the time. You use it out in the field. All right. Explain that to the people in the room. Explain that to the viewers, because sometimes they don't know what it is. And you'll see just the scientific data and the stuff he describes. And I watch this going with a smile on my face going, yes, that's part of the contribution. He's contributing, right? Both him and I are contributing to this as much as we can. Even Evelyn contributes with stuff that she knows. So that's the thing is, people just don't want to watch people go, oh, wow, I got an EVP. That's cool. Let's go see what else is over here. No, explain it. Why is it a wow? Why is it cool? Why is it significant? That's what you need to do. I've been doing this long enough to know, people want to know.
And it's good to have that verification of what you're getting and what's EVPs or the SLS camera is picking up exactly what you're getting as well. So that verification works brilliantly.
Like Ryan, because I was a little skeptical of the SLS app, okay? Because I've seen some people use it with me when we've done ghosts, because I do a lot of paranormal events all over Chicago, and I'll ghost hunt, stuff like that. Plus my house is haunted. So I always test the equipment out in the field. And then I have a lot of my followers and people that always go to my events. They bring new equipment and apps and stuff, and we test it. I said, oh, anybody got anything new? You guys, all right, let's test it. So we do it. So if it works and it's significant, we cross-reference it too. We have Spirit Box, EVP, and an app. And I've had all three of them say the same exact thing, which is extraordinary. So I said, oh my, like the Ghost Tube did that. And I was like, I got to use this season 2, right? This is just, and you see how but I can go in my house that has ghosts and nothing happens. I might say 1 or 2 words and that's it. But you go to these places where no one's investigated before, like we did, which is so much better than going to a place where people have been all the time, unless they're highly active, is spirits come out and talk to you. And they were doing that with the Ghost Tube, which is extraordinary. So I went off on a tangent, but the fact of the matter is that using these devices, we're contributing. I've always been a fan of ITC. You talk about ITC, and to prove it, look at the poster behind here. This is my favorite poster. All right. It's the amazing world of psychic phenomenon. Now, imagine this, okay, because this is the reality. You're growing up in a haunted house, living in Hoffman Estates, Park Lane. Some of the kids in the block believe you. Most of them don't, okay? And you get teased about it, but you have ghosts happening all the time. We see this commercial for this back in 1976. You can go to YouTube and find it. It's on YouTube, I think. Is in 1976, I see this commercial, this Saturday on ABC, whatever. Ghosts are real. What? And you see this documentary. They're saying ghosts are real. And we're going to prove it with people all over the world that are showing their contributions or the evidence they have to support. I'm so like, oh, Mom, we got to wait. Oh, it's way past your bedtime. It's 8 o'clock at night. You go to bed early because, I'm like, oh, please, I got to watch. So my mom and I watched it. They show a haunted house with a mother and child, and they're hearing the moaning and everything, which we heard. We go, oh my God, just like us. But then they show these scientists talking about EVP, and they're capturing ghost voices on reel-to-reel recorders and cassette recorders at graveyards. Mom, I got to get a reel-to-reel recorder so I can talk to the spirits in the house. Week later, my dad comes home with a reel-to-reel. So I captured my first EVP in 1976 on a reel-to-reel as I set it beside the Ouija board, and it spoke. Then when I went to go visit my grandma in 78, my great grandma had died. And so my grandma says, we're going to go visit your great grandma's grave. Just like on the show. So I brought my boombox cassette recorder and I captured EVPs, which I do have. I still have the cassette. I captured that. And so you have my voice as a kid, supernatural spirits, take 1, take 2, because I didn't know how to ask questions. So I would do like a reporter, like, here we are, supernatural spirits, take 1, nothing. Supernatural spirits, take 2. There's an EVP, right? So I've been doing that since 76. So for me, I've always realized that back then I proved it to kids in the neighborhood and kids would freak out and stuff. And parents say, or kids scaring our kids and stuff. But the fact of the matter was I was able to capture their voices, which not only validated what I was experiencing, but validated to other people. That's why you see me as a medium, as a paranormal investigator, is I'm huge into ITC. Okay. Because it goes back to my childhood and I know how significant it is. And that's why you see, especially this season, is, apps, Frank's Box, EVP, we're using everything. We're throwing it at the gambit. But as you see how it works, the conversation, what I'm picking up as a psychic, they're validating on the ITC. And then when I'm missing, I ask them that question, then they validate it and they tell us, and now we know. So now we're putting together the whole scenario, the narrative of what's going on, along with the history and whether it matches or it's contrasting. And then we can come to a resolution at the end. And it's brilliant. You know, it's taken me years to get people to realize this. I mean, of course, we did this in Help My House is Haunted, and I keep touch with Barry Guy all the time, talk to him all the time, talk to Jane once in a while. They're incredible investigators, and I'm friends with them. They're my colleagues, right? So we talk about, you know, the new technology. We talk about the stuff coming out. Like I told him, go try this, Barry. Barry didn't like the apps a couple of years ago. I said, Barry, he's like, nah, Chris, I'm telling you, Barry, there's something to it. Rule out the false positives. I'm telling you. And he's like, holy cow, you're right. So you see them using it a lot, right?
Yeah,
But that's what you do in the paranormal, is you share that. But then you have some people in the paranormal, you can't use a spirit box on your TV show. You can't do this. So what are you doing, right? You don't own any of this. And that's but that is the mentality that science has suffered as well, is some science will not allow certain things to be exposed to the public. And some people will try to dominate and put people under the bus because they want to be the one that discovered or found this. Same thing happens in the paranormal, certain technology and stuff like that. It's like, why? Come on. We're supposed to expand our consciousness and all contribute together, but not everybody has that team mentality. I do, because I come from an athletic background. My dad played professional hockey. I played sports 15 years. You know, I coach teams to championships. I know how important it is that you all work together. It gets frustrated when you have someone that doesn't want to work with you, right? But you have, you know, Barry was a great team person. Jane was a great team person, you know, and Ryan's amazing team person. So it's like having these people around you, you trust them, they trust you. So, you know, they're going to do their job. You're going to do your job. What can you do together? And the results you get, as you see in this season, is phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Just to, you know, we know about ITC apps. There's a lot of different opinions about using them, the way they're, you know, the way the technology is built. But stepping away from that, what I want to know, like skeptics and like going down the scientific route, there's people that don't believe in the paranormal, but they go down the scientific route. And they say, when you're going into haunted locations, you've got to bear in mind the kind of conditions that they're in. You know, some of the places that we investigate are really old. There's mold, and they're saying that the mold follicles can actually affect the way the brain works. Do you believe that could be a case when we're going into these locations? So we think we're seeing stuff.
But yeah, no, the fact of the matter is, yes, mold can, because I know some friends that do mediation work and remediation and dealing with mold, how dangerous it is over long term. It doesn't happen automatically, you know. But the fact is that, let's talk about collective experiences. And we talk about ITC. If a voice comes through the spirit box or on a recorder and several people hear it, has nothing to do with mold. Because then you bring it on an audio, Adobe Audition or in Audacity, and you pull it up, there's validation. You talk to a sound engineer. He goes, no, there's a response right there. So what does that have to do with mold? Nothing. You know, and the thing is, I remember the skeptics back in the 2000s, they used to say, oh, EVPs are radio waves or pareidolia, this and that. Well, you know what? In my decades of doing ITC, I've never captured an EVP of Madonna or an AC/DC song. or the weather of a ghost saying, it's partly cloudy today with a chance of rain. Thanks, ghost, for letting me know. That's bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm going to say bullshit. That's the biggest bullshit skeptic thing I've ever heard. They need to have an excuse for stuff. It's like, come on. We have sound engineers that can validate there's voices there. Okay. Now we do know this. And a perfect example is a politician just made a comment about another politician. And you see certain news sources and she says something and you see statements quoting her incorrectly. They said he's dumb. And then everybody else is saying he's scum. Well, she's actually saying scum, but some news outlets misinterpreted what she's saying and put dumb. But that's not an EVP. That's an actual person. And that happens all the time. So we can take actual recordings of people in a room where we record them in a room from a distance and have people analyze and try to figure out what they're saying. And a lot of people are going to get it wrong. Okay. Does it mean that that person was actually there? They're not talking? No, we can have an actual transcript of what they said and they can validate what they said. So it would show the people that are incorrect. And if we look at those people that are incorrect, what's going on, and I know this from having a brain injury back in 2009 from a car accident, is that their brain frequencies are different. Under amplification, over amplification in various parts of the hemispheres. You get an EEG done. And neurologists know this, and neuroscientists, that brain patterns are all different. They have over 1,000 differences of different categories, and they've narrowed it down between 10 to 30 now. They used to have 100, but they were still difficult. Now bring out 10 to 30. But even within those 10 to 30, there can be so many different variations. What that means is, say the three of us go into a room and we all hear something different. If we did an EEG done, it would tell in the EEG that Nando, your brain frequency is slightly higher in one level and mine's lower. Nikki, yours is in between. And then some of our hemispheres are going to be super high and super low. Like, for example, I had an EEG done, okay? And in the EEG, it shows between 10 to 14 hertz are over amplified. Okay. Now remember, 10 to 14 hertz is below the 20 hertz that we hear. But a part of my brain is super amplified, meaning that the smallest noises, and that's why I'm a light sleeper, any little noise. My next door neighbor's car muffler wakes me up every morning at 5 a.m. and at 6:20, right? Drives me crazy because I detect little frequencies. Like, we can do an EVP session, play back the audio. Majority of people don't hear anything. I said, nope, there's something right there. And I've done this with Gary Galka. He's like, holy cow, you can hear this. I said, yes, because now I know why scientifically, 10 to 14 hertz. But I will go into the audition and I will amplify that area, and there it is. Because I amplified it, now everybody else can hear it, but nobody else could. But I was able to detect that slight little frequency, very similar to dogs here below 20 hertz, because a part of my brain is over amplified. Why is it over amplified? I don't know. But even these neuroscientists are saying that, they're fascinated about stuff in the paranormal, that they believe that people are hearing stuff because parts of the brain is amplified to hear that frequency, while other people don't, because it's not. That has nothing to do with pareidolia. It has to do with the brain frequencies. And that's what makes me so mad. Oh, it's pareidolia with EVP. These skeptics don't know what they're talking about. Can it be pareidolia where people have something on their mind and they play it one day and they think it's this, and the next day they think it's something else? Absolutely. We know that. Okay. It's interpretation. Because why? Because your brain frequency that day is going to be different the next day, depending upon cervical issues and neurological issues or stuff you're thinking about that throws the brain frequency slightly off. We know this in sports, getting into the zone and being totally into zone and being unstoppable, right? Because you get your brain there. So it has to do with the brain frequencies. And that's the issue. And in working with parapsychologists and even some psychologists, and you look at, oh God, I forgot his name at the moment, but he's done spirit release. And big thing in the UK is where 80% of people's psychological disorders have had certain entity spirit attachments. And they have done studies on this, 2,000-3,000 studies, and they've worked with people removing the spirits, and then they're able to tackle some of these psychological issues or other issues they're dealing with, right? Well, when you hear people hearing voices, right? And I've done this, okay? I've had clients, they hear voices. You're going to have people that hear voices because, yes, they have psychological issues. They have fragmentation in the brain, trauma, whatever it is. Some of them, they're actually hearing voices. How do we test this? EVP. So if they say they're hearing voices, we take out the recorders. We tell the spirits that are there talking to them, what are you trying to tell them? We've captured it. And we play it back, and there it is. They're like, well, how come I can hear this and you can't? It goes to the EEG, your brain frequency. It knows exactly what your brain frequency is of reception. So it's broadcasting at that reception of frequency, and you're receiving it. Nobody else in the room is. No different than radio, what we do today. You get 100 different channels playing at one time. You tune into just that channel and you get just that channel. Same thing with the brain. So people need to understand this. Here's your contribution. Start studying this. Start picking on people for pareidolia. Just understand that the brain frequencies are slightly different.
Okay. No, that's an amazing answer. Thank you. Nikki, you got another question for you?
Sorry. You've also this year you did a pop-up Paracon.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
How did that go?
It's funny. I just had a conversation with two people that were there because I spoke at a high school this Wednesday, and they were at the event, which is they asked me to speak there. But it was because I do these paranormal access events. So a friend of mine was saying, "Hey, Woodstock Opera House is haunted." I said, "Well, I've never been there. Let's do a ghost hunt there." So I met with the manager. We walked around. I go, "God, this would be a great place to do lectures at with this stage." He goes, "Well, we'd be open to that." I'm like, "Yeah, it's a lot of work. Put something together. I think you just do the ghost hunt." And I just thought about it. I'm like, there's always been on my bucket list to put together a paranormal event. Let's do it. Well, this was in April, of 2023. And she goes, "Well, the only date we have available is July 8th. I go, "That's in a couple months." So I said, "All right, let's do this." So I looked at the budget, everything. I did a whole spreadsheet of budget, everything, because I had no money to do this. I said, "All right, well, we do the ghost hunt, sell 30 tickets. That's going to pay for majority of renting this place out. And the rest, I know tickets are going to come in." So we did it. All right. The goal was to have between 200 and 250 people. We had 300. Okay. 300 people showed up, sold out in the vendors within 2 weeks. The vendors did very well. And what I did, coming from an advertising background back in the 90s, was is what really shifted sales was first I'm promoting the event. I did individual banners for every speaker and the topic they're talking about, every speaker and even the individuals on the panel. I didn't put the speakers on the panel. I put different people on the panel. So now you have 13 speakers, even though 5 or 6 are only going to get on stage. We got the rest are all going to be on this panel. I advertised each person individually, created the banners myself, and then I sent that to them with all the pre-written copy, said, here, you send this to all your database and to all your followers. I'm doing the same thing. Now you've got this, pyramid thing with everybody else marketing and advertising. Then all the vendors, the 28 vendors I had, I created a banner for them, the copy, sent it to every one of them saying, please promote this on your social media. So now you have all the vendors promoting, you have all the speakers promoting. There adds to hearing more visibility, right? And it worked. So the vendors did extremely well because I also scheduled the speakers to have gaps between 30 minutes or more so people could see the speakers and also hit the vendors. But what ended up happening is some people didn't want to see the speakers and there's still the vendors room were pretty busy. But vendors like, oh my God, there's always people in the room, which a lot of conventions, and I've done them too. You get that little gap of 20 minutes or even 10 minutes, people come in, buy some stuff and they leave and it's just dead. So the entire day, majority, 90% of the day is dead. Nobody's coming in. You can't do that for your vendors. So having done conventions for over 20 years, is I scheduled it so that people have time to see the vendors, they have time to see the speakers, and you're not too jam-packed, and it worked. So thank you.
You designed all the
characters, the advertisements, everything. The little character Spooky. I call him Spooky. Yeah, which I love him. I made t-shirts sold out of the t-shirts, made figures. Yeah. Just like, because the thing is when you do brands, okay, because I went to school for art and I was in advertising back in the 90s, is brands are very important. So I said, I'm going to create a brand for this pop-up Paracon. And the pop-up actually came from the Pop Funko figures.
Yeah.
Of the characters. And I said, wow, they need to be a ghost. So I created one of a ghost. If it was a figure, what I would like to see. And I said, oh, this is going to become my icon. Well, then why don't I do, it's a last minute convention. So it's a pop-up, right? So I'm going to call it Pop-Up Paracon. And it just worked. And plus the color scheme, and so everybody's always doing black and stuff. No, I want to use cyan, which is a very calm, relaxing color, cyan and white and a little bit of yellow. Those are the colors I'm going to use for this brand, which stands out different from all the black paranormal conventions with all the black banners. So color scheme is important too, because it affects you psychologically. So, there's all these things behind the scene that went into it. It was a lot of work. It was so much work. And I said, next time, if I do something like this, because we're in talks, but we're running into date problems, is I'm going to hire someone to do all the vendors, someone to do help with the speakers so that I'm not doing all this, because I had to put for like 3.5 months, everything was on the back burner.
It was like
everything.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, man, especially if you're going to do it within 3 to 4 months, usually you need a year out.
Yeah.
So thanks for asking about that. Yeah, that was, I told my mom it was a success, everything. And, everybody had a great time. To have your vendors come up and shake your hand and say, oh my God, I hope you invite me back next year. I did so well. You did? Okay, good. To hear the vendors say they did very well and all the speakers and say, whoever put this whole thing together, they all did an amazing job. I go, yeah, it was me. And, don't get me wrong. Woodstock Opera House, they helped with their security staff and they took all the ticket sales. All the ticket sales went to them. So I didn't have to worry about that, but everything else, I did, but it was to see the happiness. And even though I was tired, I was exhausted the whole day, but to have everybody come up to give me hugs and I was like, that's what it's all about. I want everybody to have a wonderful time. And that's what I do at my events. Everybody's treated like VIP. Everybody I want to have a wonderful, great time because I know what it's like to sit in the back, not having a good time because everybody else is getting all this attention. And for me, it's like, I want everybody to get attention. I want them to all feel a part of this because that's what it is. Like a big fun event that you want to go to. So a lot of my events, like I got one this Saturday, we're doing a fire museum that's never been investigated by us before. So it's our first time investigating and it's highly active. So I'm looking forward to that, but it's the last one of the year. So you get people, it becomes family because the same people come and they enjoy themselves because they have this open space to be themselves. And that's what it's all about. You make it fun.
I'm glad it went down brilliantly. It sounded amazing.
Thank you.
With regards to yourself, Chris, when you're challenging, like,
let's go, Ghost. Come on now. I got you. Let's go.
But the thing, like we were saying in the background about different kind of entities, demons, imps, and things like that.
Elementals, yeah.
Elemental. How are you able to? How do you know what you're dealing with when you're using your abilities? Is there a certain sense of smell? Something happens to you? How do you pick up what you're dealing with when you go into a location?
Great question. Growing up as a kid, okay, growing up as a kid, I would sense this stuff. I would know when something's coming that night before it would even happen. I know they're coming tonight, right? They're going to be here. Or oh my God, I wake up, it's here. It's in the room, right? I was able to, because I would see them also visually, I could see the regular human ghosts. And then when I would see these creatures that would come out of the walls or race across the room, or these black mass shadows, they would take the form of that. There was also an emotional feeling different to that. Like I felt this heaviness, this evil, this like, oh my God, I feel like I'm sinking, which means my frequency of vibration is sinking into a lower level, all right, of existence. So I was able as a kid to detect the differences. And as I got older, I can tell, oh, it's male, it's female. That's why I say, you're female, right? And I see you floating above me and put a recorder, go, yes, I am. You know, how do you know? Well, you just, over periods of time, many years, you learn this, you experience this. And I remember back in 2007, 2008, because I had met Adam Bly at a Paracon in Penn State. And we became really good friends and colleagues. We talk about this stuff. He goes, well, you've got discernment of spirit. And I go, what's that? He goes, look in the Bible. And it says in the Bible that discernment of spirit in Corinthians, you can detect what type of spirit it is, whether it's good, bad, male, female, stuff like that. So it is discernment of spirit. You can detect this. And a lot of psychics and mediums, and even people that aren't psychic mediums, can sometimes feel, I feel like there's a child here, or there's something like this. And it's discernment. But another thing you have to do with discernment, as I try to tell people, is a lot of these hauntings aren't caused by human ghosts. They're caused by other entities. Could be elementals and could be something else. So you have to ask it questions like, who are you? What are you? Are you a human? Yes. Ask it again. Ask it 3 times. All right. Why is it 3 times? 3 times goes into the Holy Trinity. Is by 3 times you are discerning, and they have to tell you after, by the 3rd time, they have to tell you the truth. If they don't, okay, well, whatever happens to them. But we've had when we've asked the 1st, 2nd time, then it starts swearing and cursing at us. And then it's not who it says it is. It's pretending to be. Because remember, they're outside the visual spectrum, so we can't see them. So they can be anybody they want to be. Just lie to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the old thing from Saturday Night Live, whatever it was, the joke they said, the land shark. Boom, 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 boom. Who is it? Pizza. I didn't order a pizza. Telephone company. I didn't have a problem with my telephone company. And it's a land shark because it wants you to open up the door so it'll eat you, right? So it's making up all these stories. You don't know who it is. Same thing with some of these spirits. You don't know who you're talking to. So you have to discern, and you have to ask the right questions to confirm it. Oh, it's a child. It says it's a child. Well, how do you know it's a child? Ask it again. Ask it again. Then it gets so irritated because you won't believe it. It starts exposing itself.
Wow. And mentally, does it, like, dealing with different spirits, entities, it must impact you mentally. So how do you recover yourself, like your energy and things like that when you've done
it's
like
tough.
that?
You go through oppression. There's times you go through depression. You get these attachments. You have to get rid of them. After the Corn Exchange, when we did Help My House is Haunted, which was the 1st episode, I came home. I had an attachment because you see me collapse. I had an entity attach itself to me, and I was in a bad place. And I remember calling up Barry Guy crying, and I'm telling him, dude, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it. I don't want to be here. I feel worthless. I feel this. He's like, what are you talking about? And so I said, what can I do? What can I do? Well, I know these entities hate love. They hate joy. They hate this. So I created this like Flemball Boogie thing on Instagram, which I only did for a period of time. I made all these funny videos. I said, okay, I'm going to do humor like Robin Williams. Because Robin Williams, when he was suffering depression, he would do all this humor. So I'm going to for like 24 hours, I was making all these comic videos and doing this crazy, funny stuff. It lifted because negativity can't be in this happy, joy, loving, laughful, joyful frequency and vibration. It can't exist in that environment. So it was gone. It was gone. And it's like, and I know when we talk to spirits, and I've been asked the elementals, I said, what do the imps hate? It says they hate peace, prayer, and love. Those are the 3 things they hate the most. So peace, prayer, and love. They want you to get frustrated. They want you to get upset. They want you to get depressed. But if you're in total peace, they don't like that. They don't want you to be in peace. They want anxiety. They want distraction, distortion, because they're that type of frequency. They're a distorted frequency of darkness. So joy, laughter, whatever. And so I have 4 cats, so I'm always giving them love and giving love back. So by expression of love and this and that, and taking care of someone and appreciating. That's a positive frequency and vibration. So when you maintain that, it helps. And then you do things, in motion, because we're in a physical reality. You do things in motion that brings you joy, endorphins as well to the brain, but brings you that higher frequency of vibration. Whether it's working out, watching a movie that you really like, reading a book that you love, do whatever it is. You express yourself in that way, because we're here to create, express, and contribute. Like when I've asked spirit guides, why are we here? It says, well, you're here because infinite intelligence, the creator, put you here with free will, but you're here to create, express, and contribute. By doing these three things, you're allowing the creator to experience through you, plus you're evolving spiritually to a heightened sense of awareness of experiencing all possibilities with the creator. Create, express, and contribute. People that are depressed or are oppressed are not able to create, express, or contribute. Whether it's mentally they're not doing it, something's preventing them from not doing it, or someone else is not allowing them to do it. Think about it. The biggest frustration, if you're trying to create something, someone tells you can't, doesn't allow you to, you get frustrated and get upset, right? And if you're not contributing something, how do you feel you're a part of something? So by creating, contributing, and expressing yourself, people say, I can't take this anymore. Family relationship problems, because the person expressing themselves feels like they're not being listened to. And the person can't express themselves because someone constantly cuts them off or something else, causes a disease, a disorganization within the realm, the family, or relationship. So if those three things are allowed, and they're taught, especially to children, create, express, and contribute. Allow the child to create. Allow them to express themselves. Allow them to contribute. Show them how to properly express themselves, properly contribute, and properly create. And as long as those things don't hurt or harm anyone else, then they are fully balanced within this reality. We have too many people aren't being taught the right things for those three things. They're doing crazy stuff and crimes and everything else. So,
wow.
Your teacher is here.
Yes, definitely.
Namaste.
Nikki, you got another question?
Sorry, I talk a lot.
No, you carry on. It's great, honestly.
I can listen to you all day. So obviously, you started off with kind of doing, from what I remember, Dead Famous, which I watched.
Which I didn't want to do. I told him, I said, I'm not interested in this show.
I loved watching it back then. I absolutely loved watching it back then. I've actually gone back onto YouTube and I've actually rewatched some of the episodes that you've done with Gail. And your working relationship with Gail, it's brilliant. You two together just worked.
We never, we keep in touch. We kept in touch for like 15 years, and it's like, and anyone that's watched Dead Famous and then seen Haunted Scotland, we didn't skip a beat. We didn't skip a beat. And I always told her, I said, we'll work together again. Yeah, I told her, we're going to work together again. You wait and see. We're going to work together again. I got a feeling we're going to work together again too. And, for years I tried to bring the show back, it was just difficult.
I'd love to see it come back.
But the thing is, we went through a lot. And anybody that does research and goes back to those years knows Gail went through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I grew up. I grew up because here I was thrown into doing stuff in front of a camera that usually was personal to me and very sensitive to me, because I went through some hardships with this growing up. But, by having some of these experiences, Whaley House and other places we went to me was like, oh my God, now I have people with me. We're documenting this, and I'm coming in contact with various forms of the paranormal that as a kid, I had to deal with most of the time on my own, terrified in my room or sleeping in my dad's room. Now I have people with me. This is such a thrill, such a rush. To me, it was like, just, oh my God, this is great. So to go to that. And plus I was learning a lot too. And like I said, I was growing up, learning how to work with other people, especially from another country. There was some differences in cultures and stuff, but we all became this really close-knit family by the third season. And plus, we were on the cusp where digital cameras were coming in, and sometimes we were thinking, oh, it's ghosts and this and that. And like, wait a minute, it's not, it's dust. Oh shit. Because there's sometimes I said, oh, it's ghosts and spirits. And then, further using it, realized it's not, it's dust. And I'm like, oh, because then you see like the third season. Well, Gail says, well, before you used to say it's ghosts. Well, we're learning that it's not. Okay. She goes, well, how could it be one that you see that on one of the episodes? I said, but we're going to look at the stuff in between, and so it was a learning curve too, with the various technology we were starting to get at that time.
I think my favorite thing was like when Gail, because obviously she was beginning of it, she was a total skeptic.
Oh my God. She was so stubborn.
And she really was. And her to kind of At one point, she was getting really frustrated, and you were getting really frustrated, and she was like, "Well, how do you know?" And he was like, "Well,
yeah, the strawberry. It was the strawberry. I said we're at Elvis Presley at Suncoast Studios. I started talking about a salmon swimming upstream. I go, "Why does salmon swim upstream?" And she goes, "What does that have to do with the paranormal?" And I said, "All right, the strawberry. Have you ever had a strawberry? Yes. Well, how do you know what it tastes like if you've never had one? You know?" She's like, "What does that have to?" It didn't make. And I was trying to make a point, and I was making a point, but I wasn't making a point. And she's getting all frustrated. I said, "Oh my God, I can't deal with you because you don't even want to talk about metaphors and stuff like that." And I'm like, "Oh, you're just a stubborn person." Right. So we had this battle, but that was our personality. That was our relationship.
It really was, but
love or hate, you know,
made you two work so well together. It's that it was awesome. But yeah, it did make me chuckle when you two were there. It really did.
So where do you feel like with going into a show like that with Gail, where she is a skeptic, you're trying to
she was
what?
Dead Famous, she was a skeptic, and which people don't know, after the first, we had only commissioned 6 episodes for the first season of Dead Famous, and I got really upset at the producer and at Gail, our Alcatraz episode dealing with the mob, and I decided I was going to quit. So we had like a day off, and then we were done filming, and I just took an earlier flight and left. I said, I quit. I don't want to do the show anymore. And the producer was like upset. She's like, "Why?" I said, "Because you guys aren't taking this seriously of what I do and this and that. And this is very sensitive to me. And I just don't want to do the show anymore." I said, "All right, well, we'll give you, a couple weeks to think." And I told my mom, "I'm done. I'm not doing this." I was doing really well in the mortgage business. I said, I don't need this headache. I don't need this criticism and skepticism. I'm done, and waste my time with every time I got to explain myself to somebody because they don't believe. So I got a call a couple weeks later that, the network, they want to do 2 specials. And so we came to an agreement. They would, not pick on me as much, because they picked on me a lot, and I said, "All right, fine, I'll do this." And then that's it. And I did it. And it, then we did a second, third season. And I grew up. I just didn't take things personal because I was defensive, but I still talk to that producer. We're best friends. I mean, I just talked to her a month ago, and we keep in touch because we want to do something together. And I said, she's like, "I found you." I said, "I know you found me." I said, "But we learned a lot from each other. We grew up, and I respect that, because she taught me some amazing things, going to, filming with a crew from another country and being on the road all the time and having to get along with them and not always getting along, but learning how to compromise was something I didn't always have, So for me, it was such an amazing experience. Plus going to the most haunted places in America. God, I never would have been able to do that on my own ever. So for me, it was like, hey, been there, done that. Right. It's just great. Just great. And plus working with her. But the thing is, I was going to say is, people don't know, within those 15 years since we last worked, Gail's house has been haunted. She's seen ghosts and had experiences. She's a total believer, especially she became a believer after Hotel Coronado, what happened to her, Queen Mary, and then some other experiences on the show and off camera. She says, "Oh my God, this stuff is real." She goes, "I'm so sorry for being mean to you." I said, No. It's part of the process. You had to go through that.
She became more and more sensitive as she
went. She is sensitive, which people don't understand. The first season of Haunted Scotland, which they didn't explain, is that she was always getting emotional, wanting to leave because she deals with emotional things anyway. Anybody want to read about her past? You can read about her past. Okay. She's dealt with a lot of emotional stuff.
Yeah.
So when you have spirits and entities that also are dealing with emotions and are latching onto her, she's very sensitive to children ghosts and female ghosts. For some reason, they gravitate to her. Why? Because she's a mother and has a child, and she's gone through difficulties, divorce and everything else. They recognize that. So they gravitated to her more than me when we were doing Haunted Scotland. And as I began to realize, wait a minute, they're talking through you. So I started using her. I said, "All right, Gail, don't get upset. Just stay. What are you feeling? Talk to me." And she would start telling me what she's seeing, which would be the spirit trying to communicate with her. And it was just remarkable. I said, "Oh my God." She's like, "Chris, I'm like, I hate to say this, but I'm becoming psychic like you. I'm sensitive. I can hear them. I can feel them." I said, "No, this is great." Because they're resonating with your own pain and stuff that you carry with you. They're resonating with that. So now you have rapport with them. They could understand. So a lot of the times, she just didn't want to feel that emotion because she likes to be in control of herself. But I would calm her and I said, "No, we got to deal with this. Tell me what you're feeling." And it was just remarkable. I missed, because like Vogue wasn't like that in this season. Vogue's detached from that emotionally. So I didn't have that this season of Haunt. And I was always looking for it. Like, oh, I don't have it. But we use the ITC then to communicate, where the spirit would talk to us. So we would get that idea, and for anybody, if you've seen the Wicklow, it's one of my favorite scenes. There's a little bit longer of that. They edited it down, but the Wicklow jail episode is when come in contact with this guard that used to kill people. And this guard was terrible because he had a really rough childhood, being abused and everything else. So he would take and project that pain on the prisoners. He would torture them and hurt them and kill them. And some of them he'd take a lasso, and because he was so tall, he'd be the walking gallows and choke them to death. Now, here are all these spirits that are stuck there that have died there. And here's him still there because of what he's done, his own judgment, his own private hell. He's now realizing and seeing the pain he's caused to them. I'm bringing them together and showing them. He's like, I can't cross over because of what I've done. And they're like, we don't want to. So you guys got to forgive one another. So I'm telling them to forgive one another. Now he's seeing what he's done and experiencing everything he's done. He's being forgiven for what happened to him and facing his past, his childhood. Now he's like, oh my God, I'm so ashamed. The regret of what I've done. These people were innocent. And some of these people didn't even belong in jail, but I tortured them and killed them anyway. That was wrong of me. And you hear his remorse and his emotion come through the Frank's box. I mean, just imagine the horrific shredding of tears and emotion. Like, how could I do this? And it's coming out. Yeah. Evelyn's face is like, I've never heard that on Frank's box. And Ryan's like, it's never come through the Frank's box like this. This is the remorse of that guard. And you see me cover my face because I start crying. And I had to walk away and come back, and they don't show that, but I had to cover myself because I was feeling his pain. It was so painful to feel that, because we've all felt at some part in our life like, oh my God, I did something so wrong. How did I do that? The repercussions. He was feeling the repercussions and asking for forgiveness. And because of that, he was able to be released. Such a powerful, emotional thing that we all could relate to at some point that was happening right there. And then when it says it's done, and you hear me clap my hands, yes, because I have an agreement with them on the other side. When it's been carried out, when that person's been healed, when they've been helped and released, spirits on the other side tell me it's done. And when it said it's done, if you go back to Help My House is Haunted, the second season, I go upstairs, the woman that had the demonic entity in there, and we got rid of it. And then we come downstairs, they're in the kitchen, and all of a sudden the spirit box says, it's done. They're like, Chris, it said it's done. I said, I know. Right? So same thing was said in Help My House is Haunted, right? And that's letting me know, that's the communication, the message, the signal I have with them to let me know that it's finished. It's been taken care of. And I'm like, yes, thank you.
Brilliant. One of the questions also about haunted locations, there was a question in the audience that I've remembered. You did an investigation at the Lizzy Borden house, is that right?
Yes.
Yes. What they've asked is a couple of questions, but firstly, what was your personal belief of the Lizzy Borden house? Do you believe that she was the one that killed her family, or do you think she was possessed? What was your thoughts after investigating the Lizzy Borden house?
I believe she knows what happened. She was involved, but I believe there was a man that snuck in and did that. His name was John or something, that he came in and he did that. Excuse me, and he carried it out. Now, also, we came in contact with this darkness, this dark energy that has, behind Hitler, it's behind everything. It is pure evil. Has many faces and many names. It's been behind many serial killings, many wars, many terrible things people has done, and it spreads itself out throughout the planet and stuff like that to cause people to do this. You want to talk about Satan, Lucifer, demons, this, that, Beelzebub. They all come from this darkness. And it's no different than the creator creating all of us and creating different free will and personalities. This darkness has expanded its consciousness into other entities and other forms to carry out what it wants to carry out. We came in contact with this thing that was there. The night I got in late that night, I was supposed to get in that morning to film. So I missed a day of filming because my flights were delayed. I got in late that night, said hi to everybody, and was taken back to the hotel. And that morning I wake up, a black mass was on top of me. I open up my eyes and I'm being smothered by this big black mass, and I kick at it and it takes off because it knew that I was going to be going to that house and confronting it. Now, what also happened was my girlfriend at the time, she had a horrific nightmare that someone came into the house with a knife, wanted to kill her daughter and kill her. And it was this darkness attacking her, attacking me. Then my mom collapsed. My mom completely blacked out, fell, hit her head, went to the hospital. She fractured, I think it was her shoulder or collarbone or her hip. She was actually in the hospital for a month and a half. The show says that she was out. No, that's a lie. It's not. I don't know why they put that on there, but she was in the hospital for over a month. She had to have surgery. It was really bad. She's like, Chris, all of a sudden I'm in the kitchen and I don't remember anything. She was there for 24 hours. Luckily, the pet sitter came a day early. She usually comes on Thursday, but came on Wednesday. Saw her laying there. She'd been there. She was completely dehydrated. If she wasn't found, she could have died if there's any other longer time. So something possessed her, made her blank out and caused physical issue to her. So sometimes these things will attack you because they want to remove you. So when you see in the show where I say, I'm not going to go home because I know it's purposely doing this to remove me, I need to be here. And when you witness the seance, us confronting this, you see why. If I wasn't there, none of that would have happened because I led that seance. So sometimes you have to realize that regardless of what's going on, what is the greater good that needs to be done? And the greater good was confronting this thing and getting to the bottom of it.
Wow.
So I believe they were possessed and they were affected to go do this. You understand what I'm saying? Not possessed where they go, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. There was hate and anger, but they took it to the next level because this thing pushed them to go do that. That's my belief.
Would you say that could have been one of your most scariest experiences then? Something like that happening?
No, not at all.
No?
Well,
Okay.
I've had worse.
Wow.
What is your
No.
most scariest experience?
Scariest. Well, it's interesting. As a child, it was when the demonic entity appeared beside the bed when I was in my dad's room. The whole room lit up like in flames. And there was this horrific creature shrieking in this super loud tone. My dad and I wake up, we turn and we look at it, and we race to the other side of the bed, jump off the bed, and my dad grabs me to protect me, and then it disappears. My dad picks up the phone to call the police, puts it down, picks up the phone to call the police, puts it down. I go, what are you doing? I'm going to call. He goes, but it's gone, That was terrifying to see my dad as a professional hockey player terrified. Now, I had a regression. I went back to that moment because I wanted to see what it was, but it was so blanked out because it was so terrifying. But in that regression, I did not realize how scared my dad was. And as I watched in this regression and replaying it and seeing how terrified he was, I said, oh my God, no wonder my dad always went to church and this and that and prayed, because this scared him that much that he went back to his faith because of this. And I'm like, wow, so that was the scariest moment I ever had. But then there's another one that happened in 2016. After my car accident and everything, I was on muscle relaxers and pain pills to try to deal with the neck pain and the head pain. I went off it because it was causing too many side effects. Then my doctor says, well, let's try cannabis. So I had some cannabis oil. I took too much of it. You're supposed to take 1 drop. I took 5. So I had an overdose. And in that overdose, I was completely out of it. I saw these demonic entities coming at me. Now I was vulnerable and they were attacking me. Says, you're ours now. You're going to be stuck. And I thought I was going to be stuck this way psychologically forever. And they were attacking me, coming down, shredding at me, tearing me apart. And I was screaming, right? And remember, I cried out, and all of a sudden this loving, caring voice says, this will only last 8 hours. This is temporary. Don't listen to them. And they're telling me, kill your cat, do this, do that. And I'm sitting there realizing this is what some people go through that have psychological disorders when these demonic entities attack them. This is also what some spirits that don't cross over are tormented by gnashing of teeth and all these demonic. Oh my God, it's real. Okay. And it is the most horrifying thing you could ever imagine, because you feel like vultures and birds are pecking at your skin, tearing off your flesh, and there's nothing you can do. You can't move, and you're being tormented like this. And then your mentality, they make you believe that you're going to experience this for eternity. So I'm just screaming I want to die, but I feel like I'm already dead, but it won't end. So for me, that was hell. Okay. That was hell. But I realized I had to experience that to understand what some people go through from this torment, as well as what some of the dead go through, that if I can help and do prayers or do something to remove that, that's part of my mission now. And I think the universe and the creator wanted me to experience that, to realize the reality of what's happening that not everybody realizes.
Wow, that's just a horrible experience for you.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I mean, it's just, I would never want to go back to that again. But if I had to, I think I would be better prepared,
it
with a greater understanding.
It must have been hard dealing with that sort of thing as an adult. But how did you deal with it as a young child? Because you're going back to, a year old, 3 years old, and then going on. As a child, how do you,
I became introverted at times, and I would get angry, about it. My dad says I used to lock myself. I got a recording of him saying this. I used to lock myself in the bathroom because of the ghosts. I used to hide in the tub at night, or I'd hide in the bathroom because I felt they never would go into the bathroom. Right. The other thing is, I grew up, my mom thought I had a bedwetting problem because I used to wet the bed. The reality is I was terrified to go in the hallway because they were there. And there's a couple nights I was held down by these ghosts, these demonic entities. They'd come out of the wall and stuff like that, that I was afraid. And the one time I saw them in the hallway, that at nighttime, I would just lean over and piss right in the vent. Or sometimes I'd just go in the bed because I was too scared. And it had to do with fear. I was that scared that I would pee in the bed. But then after my best friends had an experience in the house and they saw the ghosts too, all of a sudden I stopped wetting the bed. And it's just because as if now that my friends believe me and everything, and that we were confronting some of these things together, I started overcoming that fear. I said, I don't have to live this way anymore. And then it just stopped. I mean, I went to psychologists. I had to sleep on this little metal pad that would like slightly electrocute you when you would pee, all the stuff my parents were trying to put me through. And it had all to do with the entities, And as soon as I overcame my own fear of that, I said, forget that. I'm going in the hallway and I'm going to go and into the bathroom, and it stopped.
That's a lot to deal with at a young age, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
And one of the questions I asked is, how did people perceive what you were going through? Like, it was great that you had friends that sort of witnessed the same as you, but then when you're looking at the older generation, especially back then,
70s, we're talking the 70s. It wasn't talked about. I mean,
it was a taboo subject, or
totally.
If you said something
crazy,
you're crazy. You've lost.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I almost punched one of my neighbors because he says, both you and your mom are crazy and stuff like that, because stuff that was going on in the house. I almost decked him. Seriously, I just walked right up to my dad's like, Chris, walk away. I said, how dare you talk about my parents like that? Because I knew the stuff because, they had talked, my mom had talked about, and I talked about some of our neighbors, the ghosts and stuff going on. Obviously it spread throughout on the street, people talking about it. So the fact that they were, because I felt responsible for a lot of these ghost things, and they were saying that my parents are crazy, F you, don't you dare say that. So yeah, there was so much stuff that we went through. Even in school, I was dragged out in the hallway by a teacher. Just thought I was making up these stories because I was telling other kids in the class what I was experiencing that night, what I saw. And I'm crying. She's like, quit lying. Ghosts aren't real. I'm like, my parents raised me to tell the truth. Here I'm in a Catholic school and you're telling me I'm lying, but I'm telling you the truth. So what do? I lie about the ghosts and don't talk about it, even though they keep appearing, frequently. This makes no sense. So I was so confused.
But then you just touched on, so you come from a Catholic background, is that right?
I would, yeah. My dad was very, spiritual, very religious. He grew up with his mom like that. So they put me in a Catholic school, which I was grateful for. Because of that, it protected me with a lot of stuff that was going on. I would do the prayers and angels would show up and this and that. And, thank God. Otherwise, I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have been possessed. I would have been possessed and probably be dead.
The thing that I don't understand with this like going into religion a little bit, religion and paranormal, is that people find it hard to believe in what you've experienced in the paranormal side of things, seeing ghosts, entities, but then they're happy to believe in a book that's been written that we have no real physical evidence. Do you know what I mean? We're going by what's been written in the book, and it's been adapted over the years. Right. Why do you think they find it easier to believe in the book than what you're saying? Or
comfort, their own insecurity and faith. They feel if their faith is affected, whatever, they're affected, because their identity is based on that. Now, I know some people that led really bad lives, selling drugs, prostitution, whatever it was, that they went from one extreme to the next, then became completely reborn Christians, faith, this and that. And then they turn on me saying, you're talking to the devil and this and that goes so deep. I'm like, oh my God, they used to know this stuff. So now it's like, I talk to the devil. Okay. It's from one extreme to the next. It's because their identity is fragmented, and they have to, it's like you're drowning and you have to hold on to a life preserver. So that life preserver, that faith or whatever it was, the coping mechanism they had before, feeling wanted or validated, or coping mechanism with drugs, alcohol, whatever it was, that was keeping them afloat, because for them to face their own trauma and pain of the past was very difficult. So if you remove that, or anyone kind of contradicts that little life preserver, they will attack that person because of that. Now listen, I believe a lot of scripture. I don't believe all of the scripture because there's contradictions and we know that, but I believe a lot of the scripture, and a lot of the scripture did help me and did save me. But as we know, scripture isn't evil. Man is evil. Man tries to control man. Man kills man. So man will always, we see it in the politics in America, with whether Republicans or Democrats, doesn't matter. I'm not going to get into it, but they will use religion and stuff to try to create their platform because they know there's a huge platform in religion. So if they get all those voters, it's going to help them. They don't care about the religion. They never even pick up a book and read it. Some of them, they're not religious or anything like that. Or they're like against people, of different genders or sex or whatever it is. And they're so hardcore Christian against, I go, what would Jesus do? Jesus would walk up and hug the person and tell them they're loved. But here you are attacking people. So the problem is not the scripture. The problem is the people. Some of the scripture has been manipulated or controlled to control the Roman Catholic Church or whatever organization of religion. Think about it this way. The priests, who sent Jesus to death? The priests did. The Pharisees. The priests sent Jesus to death. Okay. You can blame, the Roman politics, whatever you want, being the final decider. But they're the one that wanted Jesus out of the way because they were the one that were worshipped and had all this money and everybody came to. Now that they're not coming to him, they're going to Jesus. Forget that. That's control. So it's no different than it was then to it was today. No different. Okay. People are going to stick to whatever values or faith or whatever they have, even if it's wrong. Okay. Yeah. They're going to stick to that because that's their identity. And that gives them some type of power, strength, or significance. When it's wrong, then they need to look into themselves and find out their own significance, not something else. Then they could add that if they want, but then they would have a better discernment to that I don't need that. That's wrong. So why do I need to feel validated by believing that? So people look for validation in certain things and don't test it or argue. But then there's some people open to it. They're open to that stuff. You look at the Bible, it even talks about elementals, talks about satires and stuff, the spirits of the forest, don't talk to them because they'll lead you astray. Well, it's true. They'll lie to you. We know that. So it's like, come on, even Jesus is walking around and he goes like, is that a ghost or is that Jesus? He goes, Jesus is like, I'm not a ghost. It's really me. Okay. So ghosts exist. They're talking about ghosts, right? Yeah. So
Nikki, any more questions from you?
So for obviously nowadays, any sort of child that is wanting to find out about if they have they've started experiencing stuff, they think they've got a gift, so you can go on Google and you can research, but obviously for yourself, when you was a kid, none of that really existed.
No, I had none of that. My dad didn't want me to talk about it, said ignore it, go away, right? And then my parents got divorced. But then my mom, she was like, well, just talk about it in the house. Because my mom had experiences. She didn't see ghosts. She would feel stuff that was coming for her. She would hear stuff, and she had dreams that would come true. So after I think it was the third or fourth encounter that I had where I saw 3 ghosts and one of them waved at me because I was like, I wonder if this ghost can see me like I can see her. And it waved. Even though I didn't say that, I felt that. So it waved. My mom's like, that's it. We got to figure out why they're here. So she got a Ouija board. And we started using a Ouija board for years. There was good times and bad times using the Ouija board, obviously. But my God, the stuff we learned, and I would do it with my mom all the time. Then when she wasn't around, I'd do it by myself or I'd do it with my friends. It didn't really work when I did it by myself. I did have stuff fly across the room and things move, which was insane, right? But I would do it with my friends from school or neighborhood kids. We go in the garage, they come over and we do it in the family room, whatever, or sometimes we do it outside, the Ouija board, because I wanted to know more. I had questions. I wanted to learn. Some of these spirits became like my friends, because I could talk to them. So for me, it was like, that was my outlet. It was either my mom or the Ouija board. And then some of my friends, they got into it. Like my one friend, Blue, he was the one there in 3rd grade, saw the ghost with me and Brian. I still talk to him. He's like, hey, my house is haunted now too. And my kids see stuff. And remember when we used to do this before everybody else? We were like the original ghost hunters. I go, well, we weren't the original ghost hunters. There was other people out there, but he says, can you believe it? Imagine if we had our own TV show when we were 9 years old doing this. I said, yeah, maybe a YouTube channel, but we didn't have that back then. But we were doing this, and we were walking around my house broad daylight with a flashlight, trying to look behind bushes. Did the ghosts go behind the bushes? Are they in the window well? Because when you're that, you don't know where they go, right? So we're looking everywhere, all around my yard and inside the house. Are they in the closet? You go in the basement. No, you go in the basement first. So we'd have this crazy stuff that would happen. But we were doing that back, 74, 75, 76,
So how did you learn to control your abilities?
Well, it helped when my mom taught me about telepathy and then doing the Ouija board with my mom and learning how to do that. Then I had some spirits would warn me and they would tell me certain things. Like the one time I'll never forget, it was me, Brian, and Blue. We were at Blue's house and all of a sudden we're in the basement and Spirit says, I can show you stuff, take you to other realms. Really? How? I said, okay, lay down and rub your temples right here, right behind the eyes, between the ears and the eyes, right in here. So we would lay down and I'd do that to Blue or Brian and we do it to each other. And we would just rub this. He says, just close your eyes and pretend you're going to sleep and just concentrate on leaving your body. All three of us were like, have these incredible visions and dreams. Like, oh my God, that's wild. Right. So I said, all right, let me try again. I'm gonna try again. So this one time we're doing this, all of a sudden I'm really focusing and concentrating and shoom, I shoot out of my body. I go like this so I don't hit the ceiling. Next thing I pull my hands away and I'm in space. And I'm looking around, I see all these stars. And I'm like, where am I? I turn around, I see the earth and I see the globe that's illuminating and I'm screaming bloody murder because I'm thinking I'm going to fall into space. I'm lost. All of a sudden I think I just want to be back in my body. And I shoot back to my body. I thought I was going to die and smack right into the ground and splatter. Right. But I don't have a physical vessel. It was just my soul. And I shot back into my body. I jumped up screaming. Both my friends screamed because I screamed. Like, what the hell? I said, I am never doing that again. Oh my God, I was just in space. He says, get out. I said, no, I left my body, and I didn't know at the time, but that was an out of body experience that terrified me. Last thing I want to do is be stuck in space or be stuck in a place I don't have control, but my thoughts took me there, right? I was trying so hard to shoot out of my body or go someplace. I went somewhere, So it was like this meditative state that taught us. I mean, we're talking about in grade school that we did this. And because I was so scared, I didn't want to do it again. I've done it again, doing the Gateway program. Okay. Back in 2016, when I heard that Army intelligence did this and they proved that there's a creator and there's souls and everything. And the document was put on the CIA website. So I tracked down the Gateway and I started doing it myself. And oh my God, I love it. I've had amazing experiences and encounters and I do it frequently. I do it a couple times a week. I will do it for meditative purposes, to go to a safe place, whether it's a white room or dark room, away from the physical body and allow myself to heal and just to resonate at a very comfortable frequency. And then I'll come back. So for me, it's a very healing process for meditation and spiritual, using those frequencies. So for me, I learned from the Ouija board, talking to spirits, and I learned from my mom. Then having my friends there, I had that support where I could just be me, not have to worry about talking about ghosts because they could relate because they had experience in my house. And we continued to have experiences, TV guides flying across the room, noises, scary stuff, phones ringing, nobody's there, all these other things that we had happen. So when you have your friends and your mom, it's fine. But I was always talking about it outside the house and getting in trouble and, just the way I am, rebel.
Oh, somebody's already put a comment up. But your mum sounds like she was awesome.
Yeah, she does. And we still talk about it. She'll call me and tell me, oh, you're not gonna believe what happened 2 days ago. I just saw a ghost go through the hallway, this and that. And, I started documenting, some of the stuff my mom's talked about. So I have that record. I have a little bit with my dad. I wish I did more, and even our babysitter who just passed away. I mean, I wish I had spoke to her on the phone for 3 hours, telling me all the stuff. I wish I would have documented it. So some of the people I have to do, to call them that I grew up with to document further. So I have this on record because they were there. They're eyewitnesses, even some of my ex-girlfriends that experienced stuff, when we were younger. So high school is I need to get all this stuff documented.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, you've investigated a number of places around the world. Just a few to mention: Jamaica, Mexico, UK, United States.
Right.
Do you find that like for you're talking about frequency with the brain? Do you find that there's a difference with each location, like certain countries, that there's something different about the investigations that you take part in different parts of the country? It's
very simple. Older cultures, older history, there tends to be more activity because you got spirits that have been around for a long period of time in the spirit realm, hundreds, thousands of years compared to America. America's, it's what, 300-400 years old, whatever it is. It's like, you got places thousands of year old where spirits have been there for over 1,000 years. They figured out a lot of stuff they can do within the physical and spiritual realm. So they tend to be more active, especially when you go to some of these places where they've been a long time and they have not communicated with people. No one's bothered to come in there to communicate with them. So when we go in there, we're getting just incredible stuff. I mean, look when we're on the, what episode was that? The Wicklow jail out on the boat. I'm thinking, oh, great. We're going to go out there. We're not going to get anything. And even, and I told him in editing, I said, the K2 meter went off. Okay. And it's got the sound on it, but it went just a little bit. Right. And you barely see it. I said, zoom in on that so you can see it. And they didn't zoom in on it, but it goes up and that does again. You do see it, but to have the K2 meter go off, to have the other device go off. Okay. The SLS didn't work at all because it can't map anything because it's too dark and the depth is too far because the SLS camera, it measures the depth. So if there's a wall in the background, it measures any changes between that wall and here. Because the laser that shoots out the SLS is going out into infinity across the lake. There's nothing to measure, so it wouldn't show up. But, we use the ghost tube and the responses back and forth. I mean, it's just extraordinary, and that was like, wow, this worked out way better than I thought it was going to, and Ryan and I still talk about like, how cool was that,
I mean, even last week's episode with sorry, I can't pronounce it, but in the caves, the Alloy caves.
Did you see the look of those two group guys? I forgot that Andrew and Richard or something. I forget.
Yeah.
From the paranormal group. The puka, they're like,
yeah.
I mean, we caught on the SLS. We caught the photograph, which we didn't see the photograph till later. And and both of us, there's two of us, we felt something was there, right? We felt it. We had that sensitivity. And then the puka, you're like, play it back again. We played it back like 5-6 times, and there was a couple other EVPs we got as well. They didn't show, but the shock on their face, like,
yeah,
it was awesome. I'm like, yes, we got it outside the cave on top of the mountain. This is great. So that's just people like, oh my God, he's over the top. Like, Chris is how am I over the top? I get excited. I mean, to grow up and be prohibited from talking about this outside the house, from the skepticism and the ridicule I used to get, not only in grade school, high school, and college, to now have other fellow like-minded colleagues and we're getting stuff. To me, it's like I'm a little kid again. I never grew up like Peter Pan. Like, yeah, it's like I always get excited when we get stuff like this because it's validation.
I did
the
other week. We went to Derby Jail and we got a couple of EVPs, didn't we, really? One I got on my voice recorder, which was one of my colleagues talking, Sarah, saying, hello, Spirit, can you say hi? And you get that little faint hi that comes through. And me, I get so excited when I get stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, people forget as they go there, they say hi, they do all this other stuff. But when you leave, also do a session, say goodbye. We're leaving now. You see me. I do it at every event. So we're leaving now. Goodbye. We have to shut this off. And a lot of times you hear, thank you. Goodbye. Bye. See ya. Talk to you later. Everybody's like, oh my God, they're saying goodbye. Yeah. Do the same thing. I mean, I've got some recordings leaving. They say goodbye. And then, one negative thing, we don't want to ever see you again. You effing piece of shit. It's like, sometimes you get the negative stuff, but still there's an EVP right there. Caught it when you're leaving. It's cool. It's good stuff.
It's an EVP at the end of the day.
Yeah. So yeah, PSII is the group that we did on the mountain. I see there's a lot of questions people have. If we want to ask maybe some questions, someone asked about, does Chris believe that aliens visited Earth of course. I mean, it's all in the cultures and everything. Aliens, I mean, I believe actually aliens created us. They are the missing link. They created us. Then say, well, what does that mean about a creator? Well, creator created many other beings to creates the soul, and they're the farmers or the scientists creating our physical vessels for us to exist in. That's how it became a reality. I do believe that we are hybrid, that we come from aliens. Not everybody's going to believe that, and that's perfectly fine. It does change things in scripture, but if you look in Genesis, it says they're now like us, gods. Who's us? And why are we now like gods? Well, the early, the people in certain cultures, when the aliens would come down, they thought they were gods. So we were created by the gods. And the gods are not the God, but they've created many other civilizations, so they've been worshipped as gods. But then there's the main creator. which created all these other beings and created them and everything. So it's just, it passes down. No different than when you have a family and you have children, those children have children, the children have children. There's a great grandpa, first in the generation or whatever, he's like the God, right? He's the one that started it all. Same thing.
Yeah.
It's all a big part of the whole existence of happy family. And if you talk to most abductees, that have had conversations with aliens, they're going to tell you they created us, So, and it's funny because Jimmy Carter was our president. He was told, and there's stuff you can read about this, he broke down crying because when he was told the reality of what the aliens, they've told him the aliens had been kidnapped and captured from Roswell and stuff, everything else, had told him that they created us. Now, some of them are lying to us about certain things, but and now with America coming out, the whistleblowers saying, there's extraterrestrials, there's dimensional beings, and there's interdimensional beings. We know all about it. So that's why we no longer call them aliens or extraterrestrial, because to be all encompassing, we now call them non-human biologicals, because they come from all different places. Non-human biologicals. Now, paranormal needs to step up, because when they talk about the interdimensional, they're talking about entities that exist in our dimension, that 90% electromagnetic spectrum we don't see. We see the 10% visual. The 90% is our dimension. They are able to be seen and hide in that inner dimension, that 90%. Okay. Well, they're telling you there's interdimensional beings. Well, in the paranormal, wake up, they're talking about not only ghosts probably, but they're talking about entities. So they're talking about demonic entities. They're talking about elementals and God knows what else they've come in contact with that we may or may not have come in contact with. So I find that fascinating that as paranormal investigators, the hardcore people out there, start finding out, well, what's in our inner dimension? What are the entities and beings? Let's start pursuing this. Let's start asking those questions to those whistleblowers. What do you mean by interdimensional beings? What kind of interdimensional beings? Have you become familiar with ghosts and spirits? Have you become familiar with elementals? What other entities that aren't aliens from outside our dimension in space are you talking about?
Wow. Jenny's also asked, what was your favorite location in Ireland?
My favorite location. I loved the Blackwater Castle, Black Tower Castle, whatever it's called. I loved that place. Amazing. The activity. I mean, we spent the night there before we started investigating the following day. So it was me, Ryan, and our sound guy, Simon. We're all on the third floor. Ryan and I had experienced the first night. I wake up and I see a woman, ghost, gliding through the room, goes through the wall. I'm like, oh my God, I just saw a woman ghost. She's going down the hallway. I wonder if she's going to interact with Ryan. Then I start to go back to sleep. I said, all right, I know all your spirits around here. Please, I got to go to sleep. I'm not going to start investigating tomorrow. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Then I wake up and I hear this, help me. I'm like, what the? So I roll over and I'm shocked and I was a little startled. There's a big black shadow cloaked figure with these red eyes, very tall, coming out of the wall, obviously speaking to me. So I go to grab my camera, start filming. By the time I grab my camera, get it on the camera, you got to put it in the passcode. Gosh darn it, because face recognition won't recognize you in the dark. And I go over, it's gone. I'm like, what the hell, right? So I get up and I start filming a little bit, and I still have that video of it. And so the next morning I look at my watch. It's like 2:25, something like that. When I come out of the room in the morning, Ryan looks at me in the hall like, I go, what? Did you have something happen last night? He goes, yes. I go, what time? He goes, about 2:35, 2:40. I said, Ryan, I had something about 15 minutes before that. It must have passed by my room, went into your room. So we shared our experiences. We're like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. Plus I heard drums that night. When I first started unpacking, I heard boom, 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 boom. At first I'm thinking, did someone just pull up with a car with subwoofers in the back? And I look outside, there's no car there, right? First thing I think of being in the suburbs or in the city, right? But I'm not. We're in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing out there. So then we find out, oh my God, it could be the war. There was wars that happened here and they were attacked and played drums. So that became part of our investigation, which they edited it out, unfortunately. But I start talking about, can you replicate the drums? Can we hear the drums? Ryan captures it on his DR60. Right after I asked it, we got it. Then we did it again, second time, right? So we caught it twice. Then we're going to ask more about it. We get a direct voice phenomenon. We start hearing the drums. Oh my God, we just heard the drums. Well, they edited all that out except us hearing the drums. Why they did that, I don't know. Okay, I'm like, come on, guys, this is extraordinary. So they took all the backstory to that out. They just put in, I think because there's so much other content, and they could have spent 10 minutes just on that. I don't know. But I love that place because the activity we were getting and the fact that I saw 2 ghosts the very first night there was extraordinary. Plus, we have something physical that happens. None of us are touched, but something physical occurs. That's pretty cool. So I love that place. I really do. To me, that was my favorite. The school was really cool. I still have some skepticism regarding the videos, which I plan to put a video out discussing that. But I saw ghosts in daytime while I was there. And one of them I saw with one of the people that works there. We both saw it together and I raced after it and it was caught on camera. Okay. So the fact of the matter is that school is haunted, whether that video is real or not. That school is haunted. And then meeting some of the other teachers that saw stuff fly off the wall and everything not too long ago, it's highly active. So for me, and plus, wait till you hear the ITC communication we get. It is going to blow your mind. So that's the season finale. And I've seen the episode and I think it's great. It's one of my favorite episodes. So that place I really liked. Black Tower Castle and Lep Castle. Those are my three favorite places.
Brilliant. Samantha's also asked, how's Vogue Williams doing after filming? Saw you tweet mentioned that it left her too scared to sleep.
Yeah, no, she talked about when we were filming that she was terrified to sleep when she'd go home because she felt like something could be following her and stuff like that. So she talked about that while we were filming, that she was freaked out. And then by the end of the season, she was kind of pulling herself away because she was starting to really freak her out. And the Fae, she didn't believe in the Fae and anything, didn't want to get involved in that. She goes, all right, that's crazy stuff. I don't even know if I believe in that. But after what happened at Alwee Cave and this and that, she's like, oh my God, I don't want to. Some people are like, I'm okay with this, with ghosts. But when we get into these other things, I don't know. I just, some people just shut down, and you haven't heard a peep out of her, since the show started airing. She hasn't said anything about it. Like she's just, she realized, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Some people just, they create this comfort zone. And after they've had these experiences, they realized what's really going on and all this stuff's happening. And they're like, oh my God, I don't want to go that route. I got kids, I got a family. I want to protect my space. And I think that's what she's doing.
And just another question that coming from the audience from Abby. We've seen Spooked Ireland, Spooked Scotland. Will there be a Spooked UK?
I really don't know. I know they talked about Wales, they talked about England, they talked about Italy. I know at one point the network wants to go all over the world, but it's all, there's been a lot of changes between Warner Brothers and Discovery and budget cuts and everything, so I don't know. We haven't heard anything yet. I know this show is doing phenomenal. It's really just blew the doors off of the first season. The feedback's been, so it would be a shame to not continue, but it's all going to come down to the overall budget. Cause a lot of shows have been cut. A lot of shows aren't coming back just because they just don't have the funding. And what's happening, the biggest thing people don't realize is that there's so much content out there. And I've been following this. I've been in this, 3 decades, the 90s, is that there's so much content out there. So when you used to have a show that would get, 10 million viewers, 2 million viewers, like remember when Ghost Hunters came out, they were getting like 2.5 million viewers in sci-fi. Now you're lucky if you get 500,000, 600,000, viewers, because there's so much content for people to watch. It saturates viewership, completely saturates it. So people are watching all these other things. They just don't have time to watch everything. So too much content becomes a problem because it hurts you in the ratings. So I don't know what our viewership is on these shows. I haven't been told, but I do know that it's done very well because we keep seeing it trending and featured on HBO Max and on Discovery. And the fact that it's being featured and it's trending is telling you it's doing very well because they have millions of viewers on there. So there's got to be some amazing numbers being done, but I know it's always like, well, can you continue the show if we do it cheaper and we cut the budget? It's like, what I make in the show is not much at all. I made more doing Dead Famous decades ago than what I'm making now. And I didn't make a lot then, but it's way better than what I'm making now, but I do it because I love it. And I'm passionate about it. I just don't know how much longer I can do it. I got to make some money, to survive because I do this full time, which is why I do all these other things in the paranormal. But the fact of the matter is that, I love it. And I hope we continue. And I think we can build upon it. I want to become more involved as a producer because there's details within the story that's missing that I feel would take it to another level that is necessary. And I think I want to make intelligent paranormal programming where people are learning from it and you're going into realms and dimensions of greater understanding that other shows just don't have the experience to talk about, because that they're not going there. The screaming and yelling and the Blair Witch type stuff, that's dead. That nobody wants to see that anymore. They want to see the intelligent paranormal programming. They want to learn something from this. It's like science. It's like looking at Skinwalker Ranch. They want the evidence. They want the proof. They want the contact. They want the science behind it. And that's what we're trying to do in the show.
That's brilliant. Just to end on the show, if people want to reach out to you with regards to services, do you provide services like private readings that they can reach you? And if you do, how can they contact you to make those arrangements?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things. One, I haven't been doing my podcast too much because there's been a lot going on. Sold my mom's house. My stepdad died over a year ago from COVID. My mom's my cat I've had medical problems with all 4 of my cats, and then my own medical problems. I'm having 2 surgeries in the next 2 months. So because of that, I've been really downtrodden and tired where I haven't produced podcasts. I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to interview Ryan next week for my next podcast. But I have my own private practice, and usually I do clients on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Thursdays and Fridays, I work on other stuff. And if you Google Booksy, Books, Booksy, and it used to be Gen Book, but they got bought out. And so I've had a private practice. People book through Gen Book and now Booksy for over 17 years. So you can read the reviews and everything else and all the different services I offer. But I'm blocked out. I'm full, and I'm also blocked out all through December. I blocked it off because I'll be having surgeries and recovering. So availability is not really opening up until January, February for anybody that's looking to book. But you can book, and I do stuff over the phone. I do stuff over Zoom, or I do face-to-face. Because I have my own office within my house that is specifically for my sessions and readings. It's my meditation room, and that's where clients go in. So I'll have clients come to my house or do it over the phone or over Zoom. And they can just go to Booksy. You can even type in Chris Fleming readings, Chris Fleming Booksy, and you'll find it. Some people said there's been some difficulty putting in the phone numbers when you're booking. If that's the case, just talk to their customer support. They should be able to resolve it, but most people have been able to book.
Right.
And I'm affordable. I don't charge a lot of money because I know times are tough. I should be charging 2-3 times more because I know some of my other colleagues do, but I don't feel comfortable doing that. Because I know what it's like. I mean, I wouldn't want to pay, money like that to somebody regardless, because I just don't have it, but I understand that. So I make it affordable.
Brilliant. And just let you know, everyone, in the description on the podcast details, I have put a lot of Chris's links to his social media and his website. So if you want to head over and have a look. Yeah,
Chris Fleming Official on Instagram and Facebook. It's Chris Fleming Official.
Chris, you also do art as well. So
I have a degree in fine art. I got a BA. I was an art director and artist in the 90s. I worked for advertising companies. I was also a commercial artist and painter. I got back into it because I needed something to take my mind off of everything else in the creative process. And I just love it. I use various mixed medias. I'll do pencil, ink, painting, canvas. I'll do a lot of digital with Procreate, my iPad, and I even do AI. I do a mix of all these different things, and allows me to produce work a lot quicker and a lot faster. Because as an art director, I always came up with concepts and ideas, and that's what I love about this digital age. So for me, I brought it back into my life of what I used to do because I'm very passionate about it. And you can see my work, like right now, what I'm doing is, I've got an Etsy store. If you look for Chris Fleming artwork, you'll find my Etsy store of prints and some of my originals and the prints that I sell. But also I'm doing a sale right now called an Orange Sale that started in October and goes till November 21st, I think it is. If there's any piece of artwork I've done on my Facebook that I've posted, or on my Instagram, my Chris Fleming artwork Instagram page, and they're not a print, I will do a single print for you. We have to work out the price and the size. The information's on there on my Facebook. You just email me, do a screenshot, tell me what you want. I will get back to you in the next couple of weeks with the size and the price if you want it or not. Because then what I got to do is I got to upscale it. I've got to figure out exactly what paper we're going to put it on, size. I got to do color correction just for that one piece, not for multiple prints. So that's a lot of time and effort. Got to send it to the printer. They got to print it out. I got to drive there an hour and a half to go sign everything, bring it back. I got to package it myself and ship it. So there's a lot of time that goes into it. But, I love sharing my art, and I know people love art. And a lot of stuff is inspired by the paranormal, or it's stuff that I feel and I sense because I love the masters. I love a lot of the famous artists because I got a degree in it. So for me, it's always been a part of me. I've got drawings from when I was 3 years old, portfolio stuff. So for me, it's a way to share my interests. And I want to thank everybody for embracing that and loving it. I've sold so many different prints all over the world, and even Higgy Pop, he's bought some of my original art. So
Wow.
it's a wonderful way for all of us to connect. Not everybody's into art. That's fine. And I've seen a lot of other amazing artists. I mean, Cindy Kaza, she's doing some of her art too. And I think it's fantastic. Fantastic.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, I just want to thank you, Chris, for joining us tonight and giving us
Thanks for having me.
a snippet of what you've done, over the last, 50 plus years that you've been in this field. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, people,
to watch.
realize, I'm 56 years old, just so you know. I mean, I've been doing stuff, since I was 3 years old, 5, 6 years old. I mean, you look at the EVPs I was getting back in 1976, do the math. Okay. And it's funny, people say 50 years he's been doing it. Yeah. And I published a magazine in the 90s. All my friends in grade school, even in high school, remember me doing seances and Ouija board stuff. I've been doing it my whole life. You don't need a TV show to be a paranormal investigator. I'm an investigator on TV because of what I'm doing. That's why.
And it's just been great. And I think Nikki will second this as well, just to get a bit more of an insight of Chris behind the TV shows and, the stuff that you've really, like the stuff you've gone through in your personal life.
This right here, I mean, it's a photocopy. It's not the original script, but this is a photocopy of the Kolchak tapes, which became the movie The Night Stalker in 1972. And then the TV series in 73, 74 called Kolchak the Night Stalker with Darren McGavin. It's signed by all the actors. Okay. But it's just a photocopy. It's not the real autographs. That was my favorite show as a kid. Okay. Because here I am having ghosts in my house, having all these experiences. And here's someone that's, even though it's fictionalized, is going around finding monsters and entities, confronting them and resolving them. It was like, the show scared the hell out of me, but I loved the show. And a lot of people in the paranormal know this show and they love it. It's part of pop culture. X-Files, Chris Carter loved the show, which is why he created X-Files. Okay. So I have this because I never realized as a kid that I'd be like a real life Kolchak going and tracking down these entities and these spirits. Okay. And to me, it's just like, wow, you come full circle. You know what I mean? So, I mean, everything that I have in here, it's just all testament of stuff that I do, because it's my life. It's not like you go on. I mean, some people they go on TV, they're paranormal investigating off TV. You don't hear anything about it. I'm always doing it. So was Ryan, so was Evelyn. It's like, this is our life. You mean Barry, Guy, and Jane, that's their life. That's what I love about them, because this is who they really are. Right.
Yeah.
So
definitely. But it's been absolutely great. And, thank you very much for sharing your personal experiences.
Well, thanks for asking me. I appreciate
it. It'll be, maybe when, maybe in the new year, we can arrange to have you back and we can do like
sure. Yeah, reach out to Ryan too. You can have him on too.
Ryan Michaels.
No, Ryan O'Neill on the show.
Ryan O'Neill.
Yeah, have him do a Frank's Box session for you live. He can talk about his haunted Scotland that he does and everything. And I'm going to interview him next week on my podcast. I've got a whole bunch of other people lined up too, but maybe have him on as well, and he can share with you what he does. He's doing a lot of events all over Scotland and stuff. And, he's great. I love him. Him and Barry, they're my colleagues over there, and Jane.
Yeah, they're great. All of them. But yeah, it's been great to find out a little bit more about you.
Thank you.
Nikki, do you want to say anything before we let Chris go?
Thank you so much. And
Thanks.
for me, this is amazing.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me, guys, and best of luck to you too. Okay, I love it. Portal to the Paranormal. It's great, and you got that little bit of Outer Limits and Twilight Zone design in the background. Good job, and you got the two crosses right there too. Very similar, like Damien Omen too. They had the cross in one of the movie, but it's very cool. Nice job. The lime green color. I used to design logos too, so I think it's pretty cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You guys take care of yourself. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thanks so much, Chris.
All right. Bye-bye.
So I think we're losing signal a little bit, but I just want to thank everyone for joining. It's been an absolutely great show. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and we will be back soon. But for now, I'll let everyone go. Take care.
Bye.